21 years after its first appearance on Broadway, the musical Wicked finally has a film adaptation which has taken the world by storm. Let's break down the wonderfully extravagant world of Wicked.
What is up, movie friends? Welcome back to Raiders of the Lost podcast, the ultimate film and TV podcast, and today we're breaking down the box office juggernaut and critical darling for all theater kids, Wicked Part 1, the first episode of the two-part extravaganza.
Well, that's a lot of words.
A huge amount of words.
So many synonyms.
It's wicked awesome, guy. Now, we are two film bros, but that does not mean we can't enjoy a nice musical.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely adored the film. It was really wonderful. It was not perfect, but I had a really good time. Great CGI, great production design, incredible filmmaking, wonderful performances, and otherworldly singing. There was a really fun spin on the Wizard of Oz tale. I've never read the novel. I've never seen the Broadway play. All I know is The Wizard of Oz and Oz the Great and Powerful, the Sam Raimi film that came out like 10 years ago that everybody forgot about, including James from his quizzical look at me.
Wait,
Mila
what?
Kunis played the Wicked Witch.
Yeah.
And then Michelle Williams was Glinda.
Franco was Oz.
Franco
the
was Oz.
wizard.
Yeah, he was Oz. Now, this was a really fun entry into the Wicked world. The Broadway show has been running for so long; it's made $1.7 billion in receipts.
What?
Over 21 years, and
Oh
it's
my
just
gosh.
it's has just never left theaters, and it's like the Lion King. It's just always been playing. It's always been here.
It's always on.
And Wicked was
it's
a
like
lot
the
of
lights at Motel 6.
Yeah, it's always on.
We'll leave the lights
The
on.
red roof in his roof is always red.
Not an ad.
But Wicked was great. It was we did a double feature of Gladiator and Wicked.
Double feature, baby!
It was like just like Barbenheimer. Great seeing cinemas packed. Great seeing that the industry is doing well this week, and it's leading into Moana 2. So we're looking at a very strong November for the industry and for business, which is good for everyone working in film and television. And I gotta say, I was absolutely floored by a lot of the musical numbers. It was a really fun time. It's a really enjoyable musical. I've seen a lot of musicals now. I've become a fan of them in the last couple of years. I love classical musicals. The old ones are great. Fred Astaire, The Goat. And this is a movie that reminded me of those old Hollywood musicals. It's because of the huge extravagant sets that they built for this movie, which is becoming rarer these days.
It felt like we were back in Oz.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like we were in this world directed by John Chu. Wicked is just a sensation, and it, like you said, it feels like Barbenheimer. People are dressing up. They're going to the cinemas. So many people that grew up in musical theater, doing theater, plays, singers, all kinds of people are just beyond excited for this film. I didn't know much about Wicked. I always knew that it existed. I knew it was a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. I didn't know what it was about, who the characters were. I'd seen, content of it, posters here and there throughout my life. But I never have, like you said, I've never read the book, the novel written by Gregory Maguire, which came out in the 1990s. And this is based on the musical book by Winnie Holtzman, who co-wrote the screenplay with Dana Fox. Obviously, this is all based off of the original works of The Wizard of Oz. But this movie is just a massive, massive hit. It's an 8.3 on IMDb.
Damn.
It's a 4.2 on Letterboxd. It's 90% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes with critics. And as of November 24th, the day we recorded this episode, Wicked has grossed $114 million just in the United States and Canada after releasing Thursday night for early previews, and $50 million in other territories for a worldwide total of $164 million in 3 goddamn days.
Wow.
Absolutely absurd. It made $2.5 million on Monday and $5.7 million on Wednesday. They had super early screenings those days. It made $11 million on Thursday. It grossed $46 million on its opening day. Absolutely absurd. Massive, massive hit. The biggest domestic opening ever for a film based on a Broadway musical, surpassing the $31 million opening of Into the Woods back in 2014. And I enjoyed this movie. I had a good time. It was a lot of fun. I thought it was silly and campy at times, and I laughed a lot. It had a few lulls there in the middle-ish, and some scenes seemed to drag a little bit here and there, but I thought the production was just astounding. Massive, enormous sets, and we talked about this in our Gladiator episode on Monday, Gladiator 2, how Ridley Scott and John Chu, two filmmakers behind massive movies right now, that went to practical filmmaking of making enormous sets and then, accentuating your scenes with CGI and visual effects in post-production, but building the sets, then building it bigger in post-production, but massive sets, huge walls, buildings galore. It looked incredible, and we had the production designer who'd been working with Christopher Nolan for all of his films.
Nolan's guy.
Besides
Except for
Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Noah Crawley, who did Insomnia, Batman Begins, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, Dunkirk, plus The Greatest Showman, having experience with musicals, Wonka, and they're signed on, obviously, for Wicked Part 2, which comes out November 21st, 2025, exactly 1 year from this release date. So I think the creative team behind this movie knocked it out of the park. We'll get into more details on everyone involved, but I think directing John Chu and production design by Nathan Crowley really made this movie special.
And I gotta say, I wasn't sure about Ariana Grande acting, and she did a very good job. She was really fun as Galinda.
The gut is silent.
The gut
Anthony.
is silent. By the way, we're both dressed up in character garbs today. James is pink with Galinda.
I'm Jut Ames. Jut is silent.
James.
It's just James.
Good James. And then
Good James.
Giga James. And I'm wearing green as Elphaba, as the Wicked Witch.
Anthaba.
Elphany. And I guess, Cynthia Erivo has already proven herself as a great actor. And Ariana Grande, obviously one of the most talented singers in music. And this is a huge, huge undertaking. We all know she can sing, but can she act? And I got to say, out of the entire film, she was so charming, so funny, and I think she captured the essence of the personality, the essence of someone who grows up in privilege and wealth and has no semblance for like what reality is like for most other people. Aloof and endlessly charismatic, and I think she was really delightful and charming opposite Cynthia Erivo, who also did a wonderful job in her role.
I think the filmmakers made the right decision when they went into the casting process for Wicked. They didn't just say, okay, this person's a world-renowned singer, a pop star, superstar. Let's just sign them to a contract. No need for an audition. We'll get it done, and it'll be fine. Ariana Grande had to audition 5 times for her role in Wicked. So everyone had to get put through the ropes. Everyone had to earn their parts, which is, I think, why it turned out into such a success with the great performers. Even people who'd played these parts before auditioned but didn't get it because they tried to get the best person possible for the role. And Ariana Grande obviously brings you a huge box office appeal, being a mega pop star, and household name around the world. But she was terrific. She was probably my favorite part of the movie. I thought Galinda was very funny, so silly, lots of great one-liners, and this great tone that you touched on in terms of being so wealthy and privileged to not understand what other people are going through. Just this wealth ignorance, where she's a good person, or she thinks she's a good person, wants to be a good person, believes that she is, says a lot of ignorant things, but through her relationship with Elphaba, learns, and her eyes are finally open to all the things that she wasn't seeing, and they both grow emotionally together, and they become better people by the end of the film.
Yeah, the strength of the film is the clashing of the personalities, especially in the first half, where they hate each other and loathe each other. And there's some funny bits, like when Elphaba is instructed by the madam to roommate up with Galinda, and she goes into the suite. I was promised my own suite, and then she gave Elphaba a little tiny bed behind some of her dresses.
Because that's what roommates do.
And then Elphaba goes, "Don't you think this isn't fair?" She's like, "Believe me, I believe it's so unfair."
Thanks for saying that.
Thank you for saying that. I think it was really funny. I was not expecting
very Regina
that.
George, I felt like the character.
Yeah, super Regina George, and hence all the pink and everything. But it was really fun to see the personalities clash, and the costuming, hair, and makeup of the film was phenomenal. It really helped add all that personality and character. And so with Elphaba's costumes, they were actually trying to hearken towards the looks and designs and colors of mushrooms. Hence, like the large shoulders and the grays and black tones. And then with Glinda obviously going very feminine, very sultry, accentuating curves and going very pink with all floral colors. And I think they did a great job, as well as the rest of the costuming for the film was phenomenal. I expect this film to get a ton of Oscars love and nominations, most notably for production design. This might be the front runner for production design, because when we first saw the trailer,
Dune Part 2,
okay,
man.
Dune Part 2, okay, it's up here. The two of them are up at. Here's the thing: when we when they released the trailers, I thought this movie was heavy CGI.
Me too.
And it might be because of the backlighting of the cinematography, that everything's backlit in this movie. And
It's lit up a little too perfectly at times.
So that's what made me feel like it was a lot of visual effects in the film. But all of these sets were built for real, whether it be Shiz University, the interior, the exterior, the huge library, especially with the rotating hallway with that great song performance. That was really built for real. The train,
that was my favorite scene in the movie, too.
Yeah, that was a good scene. The Emerald train, that's real. Everything about that, even the rotating cogs inside of it, that was all real. You can see photos of behind the scenes of the actual train. Emerald City they built for real. The throne room of the wizard, that's all real, as well as the face of the wizard, the mechanical face that did actually move in real life. That entire system was mechanically working on site. Also, the tulip field. So the production planted 9 million tulips.
What?
9 million tulips. They went Christopher Nolan style with the corn in Interstellar. They planted 9 million tulips for the Munchkinland sequence as we're traveling across these huge rows of colors.
And then they drove a pickup truck across it, right? Yeah.
McConaughey took a cart over it.
Don't lose it, Coop.
But they planted all of those flowers. Like, that was not CGI. The forest was not CGI. That was actual set. And even like the train station and most of the interior Emerald Tower of the Wizard, where the pair are walking through that huge hallway with all the pillars and these huge doorways, everything was practically built. And I was absolutely shocked because in the trailers it looked visual effects heavy, and there is plenty of visual effects in the film, but when you're watching it on a big screen, I was just like, oh, that's real. Oh, that's real. Oh, this is real. I was really blown away and surprised to see how much practical filmmaking was in this movie, and it made all the difference in the world.
I was in those shoes about a month and a half ago of, seeing the trailer and seeing, it's probably a lot of CGI, a lot of green screen. But then I kept seeing behind the scenes videos and photos of the movie in the last several weeks. And even there were people putting GoPros on drones and flying them overhead on the locations to try to get great shots of the cast and crew. It was actually the first time anyone saw BTS or images of the characters in costume as Glinda or Elphaba.
That's how people are getting behind the scenes photos.
Drone shots with GoPros. That's what they're doing these days. Gotcha. It's insane. And so when I saw that, and I saw that the train station, the train was actually real like a month ago, and I was like, whoa, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
This is really fantastic stuff because if you listen to this show regularly, you know how much we love practical effects.
Yeah.
Even if it's miniatures, we think it's the best way to go. And I think John Chu had a great plan going forward, like build as much as we can in camera and then expand on that in post-production. Ridley Scott did the same thing with Gladiator, building a third of the Coliseum, and then expanding on that vertically and around with post-production. And it just adds so much, makes your movie timeless, and it just makes it look so much better. And there's a lot of blue screen in this movie as well. Of course, when we're in the climax, flying around and everything, which was a really great third act. But I think this movie, for me, I was most anticipating, honestly, the production design of this movie. I was going into this movie looking forward to seeing the sets.
And I would say
more than anything else.
Yeah, and what threw me off in the trailers is the film's lighting approach is heavily backlit. Whether the light sources are often, especially if they're outside, light sources of the sun are always coming from behind the characters, and even light sources in interiors. And what that does is it softens the image. When the key isn't on your image and subject, it's instead behind of it, it's going to soften everything. And that's what made everything look too pristine when I watched the trailer. But then when you're watching the scenes unfold, you're like, these are actual sets that the actors are interacting with. And so, that was an interesting approach to the lighting. This movie's getting a lot of flack for the color. And people are saying it's lacking color because they're comparing it to the Technicolor finish of the first film, which is
very vibrant.
The
whole movie's pink and green.
Yeah, I don't know what people are talking about because what happens is people will post like on Twitter for screenshots, for stills, where it might be a flatter image in color. And it's like the most extreme of that image, or like the flattest still. And they're like, this is what the whole movie looks like. And it's getting a lot of flack for its lack of color. But I thought this film was washed with color, and it's very vibrant and a great use of all sorts of colors and palettes throughout every set. So I think this was anything but lacking in color. I thought it was extremely colorful, and people might actually want to watch the movie before they critique a couple of stills they see on Twitter.
Pretty silly. It's a very
Yeah.
colorful film. There are 12-minute sequences of just pink everywhere.
Yeah.
When we're in Glinda's apartment in her suite, especially when she's singing by herself, everything is pink.
Yeah.
That's
You
pretty
have a
silly.
green character.
Yeah, I know. What are you talking about? There's no color.
Fun fact, the Wicked Witch of the West in the novel is not actually green.
I read that.
That was made for the first film in 1939. The writer of that screenplay, they were working on a character who was green for something of their own personal project, and they implemented the green skin into their adaptation of the novel in 1939. So the Wicked Witch of the West, Elphaba, was never green, but it was made green in the movie, and it's so iconic that like if you don't make the Wicked Witch green, audiences would be like, "What the hell is this?" They wouldn't even accept it. It's a funny thing where it was a fabrication and a fabrication of the novel and its source material, but essentially became a fact of the story.
Became lore.
Yeah.
Going into 2003 with Gregory Meyer's novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, a revisionist exploration of the characters and setting of L. Frank Baum's 1900 novel, The Wizard of Oz, which obviously was then adapted into the Broadway musical Wicked in 2003. And just a quick timeline of how this finally became a film is in 2003, Broadway productions started running and have been long running in Chicago, London, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, as well as Germany, Australia, and Japan. It was nominated for 10 Tony Awards, winning 3, and is the 4th longest running Broadway show in history with over 7,500 performances running over 20 years. The original Broadway production starred Idina Menzel as Elphaba and Kristen Chenoweth as Glinda, who both reprise roles, not of those characters, but as other characters in Wicked. And I didn't know who they were, but when that scene started, I'm like, these have to be the original actresses that have been playing these characters on Broadway and became famous from it.
My girlfriend told me 2 days before the film about them
Being in it?
it being the original cast members.
Gotcha.
Because I was just asking her, because she likes the musical, I was asking about the original. So she told me those were the performers, and we know who they both are.
Yeah,
Idina
Idina
Menzel was just in Uncut Gems.
Yeah. Uncut Jobs.
Uncut Gems.
She wasn't Benny Safdie's muse, but she was in Uncut Jobs.
And so when that scene happened, I was like, oh, that's cute, because I knew they were the originals. So for me watching it was a different experience for you. I was like, oh, this is a great nod to the original musical.
Within 10 seconds, I was guessing like these have to be the original actresses because they basically played themselves.
The audience was freaking out. The audience was going nuts.
Yeah.
They were like, oh my God.
It was really cool. I thought it was. I didn't know really who they were until it was happening. I'm like, oh, this is really
It was
sweet.
really great.
Yeah.
And it was really smart. And when they were on the stage, it looked like they were performing the way they performed the characters in the musical. With the kind of like
Kicking the other one out of the way. Yeah.
And Glinda's always looking for attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like they put the characters into that role. And it was a fun cameo. It was great.
Now, in December 2012, continuing the timeline of Wicked from Broadway to film, following the success of Les Miserables, Mark Platt, also producer of the stage version, announced the film was going ahead, later confirming the film was aiming for a 2016 release. However, after a long development, Universal announced in 2016 that the film would be released in theaters on December 20, 2019, with Stephen Daldry directing. But that fell through, and by 2024, Holtzman was credited as the sole writer who also wrote the music for the musical. In August 2024, it was determined by the Writers Guild of America that Dana Fox collaborated with Holtzman on the screenplay and that Craig Mazin contributed additional literary material.
From The Walking Dead?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
believe so.
Or is that Last of
Craig
Us?
Mazin.
Last of Us?
Craig Mazin. It sounds super familiar. Craig Mazin. Do you have internet back here? Hold on, I got it.
I got it.
Yeah, Last of Us. You're right.
Yeah,
And
Last of Us.
Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And Chernobyl. So he probably came and did some script doctoring. Now, in May 2017, let's go back a few years, it was stated that the film would feature at least 2 new songs. In August 2018, the film got put on hold by Universal due to production scheduling and gave the film adaptation of Cats the release date formerly held by the film. So they took Wicked out of production, took away that theatrical release date of 2019, gave it to Cats. We all know how that went down.
Smart move.
On February 8th, 2019, Universal announced a new release date of December 22nd, 2021 for Wicked. On April 1st, 2020, Universal put the film on hold once again due to Universal shifting release dates amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and gave Sing 2 the 2021 release date. On October 20th, 2020, it was announced that Daldry had left the production due to scheduling conflicts. In February 2021, it was announced that John M. Chu would take over as director. Serving as executive producers would be Schwartz, Holtzman, Fox, David Nixay, and Jared LeBoff. In August 2021, Alice Brooks was confirmed as the film's cinematographer after working with Chu before on the film version of In the Heights. In November 2021, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo were cast as Glinda in Elphaba. Grande had actually previously performed The Wizard and I as a song from the musical in the NBC special Wicked 15th Anniversary. Erivo previously had performed I Couldn't Be Happier, an excerpt from the song Thank Goodness, in the PBS special Wicked in concert. It was reported, like I said, that Grande auditioned 5 times for the role of Glinda. Dove Cameron, Taylor Louderman, Renee Rapp, and Amanda Seyfried all auditioned for Glinda, but Ariana beat them.
Apparently, Seyfried was flying out for auditions while she was filming the miniseries about that corporate woman who lied about the blood stuff.
The blood lady.
The blood CEO. Yeah, the blood CEO. While she was filming that miniseries, she was auditioning for this, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, she would have been a good choice.
Yeah,
you know, she has great experience in musicals. Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia. It's great.
And then the movie got made, however, it was supposed to be one movie. They ran into a Kill Bill thing, though, where Kill Bill was filming as one movie. I think Tarantino secretly knew he was going to do 2. He's waiting for the financiers and the executive producers to make it be their idea. So they did 2 parts with it. So it was announced in April 2022 that the film would eventually be split into 2 parts because director John Chu posted the news on Twitter explaining, as we prepared this production over the last year, it became increasingly clear that it would be impossible to wrestle the story of Wicked into a single film without doing some real damage to it. So we decided to give ourselves a bigger canvas with more space. We can tell the story of Wicked as it was meant to be told while bringing even more depth and surprise to the journeys of these beloved characters. And again, Wicked Part 2 is scheduled to release on November 21st, 2025.
Exactly 1 year apart.
Exactly.
They're pulling a Dune, man. They're pulling a Dune.
Yeah, it's interesting whenever there's a 2-part movie, they don't put part 1 in the first movie's title, but in the second film, they put part 2.
Yeah, so I know a little bit of the story of Wicked Part 2, I was told. I asked about some things. But I did have some theories because the film adaptation is slightly different from the play.
Yeah, we were talking about those theories earlier.
So my biggest theory is the father of Elphaba. Who is the dad of Elphaba? Because the movie opens with her dad going out and then her mom sleeping with a suitor and drinking this green tonic. And they dance around. They sit on the piano, and this guy, we never see his face. He's tall and lanky, and then we hear him sing one line. But the camera is moving around, but purposely never shows his face. I have a theory.
We both have. Yeah, I agreed. We both said it today.
That it's the wizard, because they're not showing his face on purpose. Otherwise, why not show his face? It seemed to be the actor seemed to be built like Goldblum. And also, the line he sings, it sounded very much like Goldblum singing.
Plus the mustache. He's a shadowed face, but there's a shot where you can see his mustache.
So I think that the wizard is going to end up being her dad.
I'm sure people who know the musical are probably like, duh.
I'm not sure that's in the musical.
I have no idea.
Because we asked someone about that, and they didn't seem to really know.
Well, maybe they're
lying to us.
Maybe there's different versions of it.
Or maybe they changed. But I'm guessing that...
Maybe the musical is different than the book. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm guessing that the wizard is Elphaba's dad.
That's my guess as well.
Yeah.
I believe
you're right. And the green tonic turned her green.
The elixir.
The elixir.
My guess is because, obviously, we're really skipping ahead now. You know,
it's not even a spoiler. It's speculation.
You know, I think we're, 20 minutes into this episode.
Who cares,
I'm sure you've
man?
seen the film if you're listening 25 minutes into this.
Whatever.
Obviously, the third act of the film, when they're in the wizard's tower and they get Elphaba to read from that magic book, because they can't. It seemed like this was the wizard's plan all along, is to create a being that could read from the book and cast spells.
And under his tutelage and under his power.
let them name the Yellowbrick Road and make them feel special.
Oh yes, yellow. I never thought of yellow.
I didn't like that.
You didn't like the origins of the Yellowbrick Road?
I would say my one con to the movie is so many studios do this with prequels, origin stories, going back to lore that exists, is they try to have your new main character solidify and create the lore that that we all know so well. So like we have to have a prequel, and that has to be an origins of not the wizard coming up with Yellowbrick Road, but someone else has to come up with Yellowbrick Road.
Like in Jurassic World Dominion, where the clone was actually the one who created the genes.
That's what I'm talking
for
about.
cloning dinosaurs.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly.
Something like that,
It's always silly. It's like,
like,
just fine. Just have the wizard create it. Who cares?
I did like the origin of the flying monkeys, though.
I did too.
I thought that was really cool, having Elphaba create the flying monkeys, because I was like, when they first got the Emerald City and the monkeys were there, but they didn't have wings, I was like, oh, I wonder when maybe it's gonna be a different like breed of monkey that have wings. But then the fact that after they had her read from the Grimmer, whatever it is, the book.
Is that the magic book?
The magic book. And then they sprouted wings. I was like, oh, that's really clever. I like that. There were some things that I did enjoy about this film, and that was one of them, how the flying monkeys came to being. So I thought that was a really cool addition to the film.
Speaking of...
And I think it's in the musical, too. It must be.
Cool additions. You know, this is a musical. We have great production design, which we've talked about, but also we have more creative teams that were phenomenal. Christopher Scott as the choreographer, Alice Brooks as cinematographer and costume designer, Paul Tatswell. This creative team, in addition to Holly and Chu, really crafted, I think, a musical that people are going to cherish for the rest of their lives. I think this is a movie that's going to be timeless, like I said, and the rewatch ability is through the roof on this movie, especially for hardcore Wicked fans, because, I mean, in December, they're doing movie screenings in theaters for sing-alongs. This movie's going to possibly, I wouldn't be surprised if it makes $1 billion. It's probably gonna. It's going to be a massive, massive hit. It already is, getting $160 million in 3 days. Absurd numbers. And, you know, the songs are great. We have a great soundtrack, and Arian and Grande, what phenomenal performers, what great singers, and they did it all on set. They captured all the audio on set. Academy Award-winning production sound mixer Simon Hayes collaborated with Chu on the recordings of the actors' vocals, one for Les Mis, and used variation of the same live recording techniques that were implemented in Les Miserables, utilizing basically an absurd amount of lavalier microphones, which are the small mini ones that you hide underneath a shirt or something like that. But what they do, like they did in Les Miserables, is to put extra mics on your characters to make sure you pick up everything. You know, using up to 50 in a scene at a time, which is crazy. Usually you have 1 or 2 on an actor.
Jesus.
Because you can't get in there with a boom. There's no way to get a boom in this
pulled,
scene.
like, there's a great shot of Elphaba where they start close and they pull the camera way back.
Yeah.
And she still sounds great.
The camera's moving the whole movie. And so it's impossible to use a boom mic. So you use lav mics. And what you do is Simon Hayes and his team, your sound mixing team, you collaborate with wardrobe and the stylist, and you collaborate with them to make wardrobe that can hide microphones that are designed to hold microphones in specific spots, whether it be on the front of your shirt, whether you turn a button into a microphone.
Truman Show with cameras.
Exactly, except in Truman Show you can see them as an audience member. But you're putting multiple lav mics on your performers throughout the wardrobe, but working with your costume department and wardrobe so that when you're designing the clothes, you're testing out where can I put a lav? Can you design a spot for me to put a lav right here? Can you design a spot for me to put a lav right here? Versus, you know, going to set with your actor before they get put into wardrobe, putting a lav on their skin on their chest or just below their neck or somewhere else, and then
I had a lav put on my hairy chest once.
Yeah, and it's not that. I mean, it is what it is, but it doesn't work great all the time. Mm-hmm. So this way, you have several lavs on your performers hidden inside the wardrobe really effectively. No one will ever know. And let's say you have a shot where you can see a lav microphone on a piece of wardrobe. You just get that out in post-production. You just make...
Juno could do that. Our cat could do that.
You brush that out in post. Super duper easy. And the leading duo, Grande and Arian, they insisted on singing live during filming. According to director John Chu, to quote him, "We were shooting it. Those girls were like, fuck the pre-records. We're going live." He was initially skeptical of this since there would be a lot of wind in their air pipes as they performed the more complex sequences while maintaining their singing voices, you know, dancing around, doing circles. They simply replied, yeah, that's what we do. We're performers.
That's what we do.
Exactly. And it was obviously the right call because it adds so much soul to the movie. You know, I like musicals, but oftentimes the lip syncing takes me out because it's not always perfect. It never is unless you're capturing the audio on set, and then you don't have to worry about lip syncing because you're really singing.
For me, it's not even just the lip syncing, it's the fact that it just doesn't sound like they're in a room. And you, with a film like this and with Les Mis, there's no reverb like you're in a recording booth. Your sound waves are just leaving. And so when someone stops a line, you can actually hear that silence for a moment, where just a slight beat. Those are things like that make me feel like, oh, this is done for real in front of us. And you can hear the accurate reverb of whatever environment they're in. And if they're outside, there is no reverb. You know what I mean? But in a studio, you can really, it just feels too perfect, and it's mixed, and it just never feels right. So even if it's lip synced accurately, it still kind of takes me out of it for sure.
And I've never directed a musical, obviously, but I feel like if I was a filmmaker behind a musical, let's say we're going the route of lip syncing, we have our pre-recorded orchestra tracks that our performers are going to sing to on set. I feel like that boxes in your performers to have to stay in this exact same structure of this beat has to happen at this moment over and over again. And it might trap them creatively, if that makes sense. So your performers are being dictated by the orchestra performance versus, I think, when you're singing live on set and then you bring that to your composer and your musicians and your orchestra. Now the singers and the energy that they brought to the scenes, to every single moment, the intricacies, whether they're planned or improvised, all those things, that now dictates the orchestra and how they play, which probably leads to a much stronger scene every time we're doing a musical number. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Also, a very impressive feat Cynthia Erivo accomplished is she was doing her stunts while singing as well. So wire work as well as the flying stunts. So they did a combination of wire work for her as well as the Superman rig. Like the flying rig that they invented for Superman, for him flying, it's the gimbal that they strap Cavill in it, they strap Brie Larson in it. When she flies, when you have a character who's flying, they do this new gimbal on a long pole, and they can move them around like a crane.
Yeah, the BTS of Superman with
exactly.
The new one, yeah.
So they put a Revo in that, as well as wire work, and she trained her body to be able to breathe in different ways, so she adjusted her breathing so that she could still sing even while she was performing stunts. So she was flying across the room while she was still singing, which is crazy, which is insane.
Must be burning a lot of calories, like Michael Phelps in a pool.
And also
having 2 pizzas for lunch.
Did he really?
Dude, Phelps would eat like 4 pizzas a day. He was burning like 20,000 calories a day. You never read those stories?
I think I remember.
He would have like candy bars and pizzas every single day.
And also at the finale song, Defying Gravity, which is like a 15-minute sequence, they stretched that song out. So in
Gravity,
that's
probably not even the right spot.
To show the transition of the characters in each of their roles. So in that song, Glinda sings the low harmony and Elphaba sings the high harmony. However, usually they switch, so it's opposites of what they usually sing, because usually Glinda is the soprano and Elphaba is mezzo, but they switch that song to mirror what's happening in the storyline.
Because that's the finale song, right?
Yeah, that's the big showstopper.
Unlimited.
James's favorite song is Popular. He's been singing it all weekend.
I don't know any of the lyrics, but I just been saying,
you're gonna be popular.
You're gonna be popular.
That's why you're wearing pink today.
I feel like I'm more of a Glinda anyways.
Yeah, I'm more
Glinda.
of an I'm more of an Elphaba.
Glinda, you're definitely Elphaba. There's no doubt about it.
No debate.
Yeah, I guess if you had to put our personalities on one of these characters, I think that's
for sure.
I think we're spot on. There's
For
no
sure.
debate, even though I'm Slytherin. But I mean, green suits you in this episode.
Thanks, man.
You should have gone green face paint.
No thanks. But speaking of green face paint, Cynthia Erivo's makeup and hair were fantastic. They spent 4 hours each day putting it on her, and then an hour taking it off with a special remover.
It looked really great. It looked like real fucking green skin. It was awesome.
So it took them a while to find the right shade of green, and they found this. Basically, they called it highlighter green. And what it did was, the problem with all the other greens they tried is those greens would absorb light, whereas the green they ended up with actually bounced light. like the skin of humans' fleshes do. So on top of that, it felt like the right color. So they called it highlighter green. It took them a while to get that one, but they felt that it looked more like a skin tone rather than paint, because that's also a problem. Like, it just looks like a person's wearing face paint.
Yeah, the original Wizard of Oz, it's clearly green paint. you can see where it's stronger in some spots and not in other spots.
So yeah, exactly. So they called the highlighter yellow undertone, which suited her skin tone as well. Cynthia Erivo's skin tone, it worked well with her skin tone to make it feel like this is actually flesh of a person, this green. So it worked really well.
I wonder if they used lead paint in the original Wizard of Oz because it was 1939. Because what's the story where the snow in Wizard of Oz
was asbestos.
Not asbestos, Anthony.
Asbestos. I threw it S in
No,
there.
you said the best stuff. You said the best stuff.
Asbestos.
Asbestos.
It's the bestest. So the snow in Wizard of Oz was asbestos.
Yeah, and they didn't know it was bad for
They
you.
did not know.
So I'm sure that the paint that they put on that actress for the Wicked Witch, I'm sure that wasn't safe either.
Sure, she had some reactions.
It's probably
to it.
highly flammable.
I mean, makeup's tough. People react differently to different makeups, so it's always a challenge for sure. But the skin tone, I think, looked great on camera. And honestly, I never even thought about it while watching the film. It just felt like, oh, that's Elphaba.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And it became because I didn't know anything about this musical. It was a really great defining character trait of her misfortune, of what she goes through, dealing with that, but not necessarily dealing with having green skin, but dealing with people's reactions to her green skin is the real problem. So it was really interesting, and I thought it was a surprising character conflict that I was not expecting walking into this film, and it worked out really well with her character's heart, with her motivations, with the inner turmoil, and also connecting to the kid version of her. I think for me, the most powerful part of the film is when she's falling from the tower, and she sees the reflection of her 10-year-old self also falling. For me, that was the best part of the entire film. I don't know about you, but I thought that was really, really fantastic.
It was a powerful third act because, as people who have seen Wizard of Oz, you know the wizard's a fraud. You know everything's fake. You know, he's this great engineer and sort of a magician in terms of like a stage magician, you know, and
he came from basically our world. Basically, you can look at it with the hot air balloon.
He's like a carny.
Yeah.
So that's what I liked about this movie is I know the wizard's a fraud, and you're watching these characters who the best thing that can happen to them is they obviously learn wizardry or sorcery from Shiv University. If Miss
Shiz.
What did I say? Shiv?
Shiv. Oh my god.
Well, Shiv from Succession. Shiz.
That's CH Shiv. Siobhan.
Shiz University. Learn your sorcery. Get your degree in magic.
Get your degree.
And, you know, maybe one day you'll get to go meet the wizard. You know, that's what Miss Morrible says, basically. Under her tutelage, if you're good enough, she's looking for someone with ability at some points. You can follow the Yellowbrick Road, which hasn't been invented yet. You can take the train to go to the Emerald City and meet the wizards, what everyone wants to do. And we're watching these characters, especially Elphaba, who gets that opportunity. She proves herself to Miss Morrible that she's got talent, that she's got power inside of her. She's special. And she gets that card from the little balloon that drops off her invitation to go to the Emerald City and meet the Wizard of Oz. How special is this? Everyone loves this guy. He's the savior of the city. The people love him. He does so much for everyone. And she is so excited, and you're watching her. But what was such an interesting experience, as have never seen the musical, is knowing that she's going to get disappointed. She's going to learn at some point she's a fraud. And so it's really powerful as an audience member to watch how excited she is and to see how she isn't doing it out of selfish nature anymore, really. She's not doing it for something she wants personally because, first of all, she invites Glinda to go with her. She didn't have to, but she took her best friend, even though they were just having a little bit of a bickering moment. She took her best friend to the Emerald City, who that's her dream as well. And she goes to the wizard and eventually learns that it's all a fraud. The wizard's a fraud. He's a fake. He doesn't know magic. He's using me to do spells, to do magic, to control everyone. He's the one causing these animals to lose their intelligence, to lose the ability to speak. And it was tragic to know that was going to be the ending point of the film. And for the entirety of it, after you really love and support these characters, to watch them learn that, it was devastating. It was really hard. You know, I felt so bad for Elphaba as well as Glinda. Glinda less because she just is going to be corrupted clearly by power and by Miss Morrible. But to see Elphaba, her dreams shattered because not only did she, it seemed like they insinuated she wanted to wish to not be green anymore. As a child, it seemed like that's what she wanted. Now she's accepted what she looks like. She's got self-acceptance now, and she decides to do something selfless and uses her wish with the wizard to help the animals. Unfortunately, she learns that he's the cause of it.
Dun, dun, dun!
But we're all waiting for that moment for people who've never seen the musical or read the book.
Yeah. And, I mean, the original is a classic, and we did get some Easter eggs. I mean, we saw Dorothy in the other three walking the Yellowbrick Road. In the opening of the film, when we saw the opening, and I like how the film opens with the hat of the Wicked Witch. She was just melted. You see the smoke, and then the camera pushes into the window. And then this film obviously opens with the Witch is Dead song, which funny story. So when the musical plays, has always been playing. When Queen Elizabeth died, actors went out and announced like obviously the Queen's dead, but we're still gonna perform. But the awkwardness of the first song being "She's dead, she's dead, yes, she's dead," super awkward, I'm sure. But I like the connections to the original, and I had no idea what the storyline was or what it would be, and I was expecting, because in the Super Bowl trailer for this film, there is a shot of Dorothy, Toto, the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and Scarecrow standing in front of the wizard's giant face.
Why are you gonna talk shit about the lion? Everyone else didn't get an adjective, but you went Cowardly Lion.
Why are you defensive about it?
I mean, it's kind of rude to just single the lion out, man.
Why are you so defensive?
I'm curious why you singled out the lion to give him a bad trait, which we all know he is cowardly, but you didn't have to say it.
Well, we don't say it's the Heartless Tin Man. We just call him the Tin Man.
You could have said the Heartless Tin Man. You said the Cowardly Lion.
He is always called the Cowardly Lion.
The lion would have sufficed.
No.
The lion would have sufficed.
Hold on. Fact check, James. In Wizard of Oz, whenever people talk about him, he's always called the Cowardly Lion.
And
he's always called the Tin Man.
I'm just saying.
It's never called the lion.
I'm saying it says a lot about you, Anthony.
I also said just the Scarecrow.
That's also mean. That's what I'm saying.
I didn't say the dry Scarecrow.
You're making my point for me. I'm wondering why you singled out the lion to show his bad attribute and his bad character trait.
He is always called the Cowardly Lion.
I know. I'm just saying.
Hold on. I'm gonna fucking Google Wizard of Oz.
No, I'm sure you're right. But you could have been a bigger man, Anthony. You could have stepped off that trend.
I didn't know this was such a big thing for you. Holy shit. I am so sorry.
My guy.
Okay, synopsis right here. They follow the Yellowbrick Road toward Emerald City to meet the wizard.
Spoilers.
En route, they meet Scarecrow.
Spoilers.
En route, they meet a Scarecrow that needs a brain, a Tin Man missing a heart, and a Cowardly Lion.
Exactly. You could have said all those things for each of those characters. You could have said the Tin Man missing a brain, but no, you said the Cowardly Lion only.
Unbelievable, man.
I know it is.
I did not know this was such a sensitive topic for you.
Now you know.
Anyways, what was I saying? All of them. So they're all in the trailer. All right. So Dorothy, the Cowardly Lion, Tin Man, and Scarecrow and Toto. They're in front of the face of the wizard.
Yeah.
It's not in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just made that for the trailer to excite people.
100%.
I think that was because when I was watching the movie, I was waiting for that.
It would have been, like she pulled out like an AK-47. Get people hyped.
And then when the movie I went to my girlfriend. I was like, is Dorothy gonna be the next one? I was just like, I'm wondering what's gonna happen to the next one. I do know some stuff.
Oh,
if you want to know some spoilers about number 2, or we can just stay with number 1. We can get to spoilers maybe at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
at the end of the episode.
I think it's a good idea.
I can give you some fun spoilers about Wicked Part 2 if anyone wants to hear them later in the episode.
I think that's a cool idea. I'd like to hear what Part 2 is going to be like because I have not seen the musical and I haven't read the book. But, maybe not too spoilery.
Yeah. We'll do it near the end of the episode so people can listen to our episode.
Maybe I don't want it spoiled.
You don't?
Actually, no, I don't want Wicked 2 spoiled, Anthony.
Okay.
Get that out of here.
I wanted it I was like, what happens? I also wanted to know if I was right about the wizard being her dad.
Yeah, well, that's my theory as well. I thought it was pretty clear with the mustached man who was laying pipe on her mom. I was surprised. I'm like, wow, this is pretty good.
Oh my
This is
God.
getting pretty intimate pretty quick.
Oh my God.
As soon as her husband leaves, she's like ready to go. Pulls this guy out of the closet.
Yeah. And on top of the leads, we had a really great supporting cast. I liked Fierro.
Yeah.
I liked Bach. Nessa Rose.
Yeah.
Elphaba sister was very sweet. Dr. Dillerman. Now, Dr. Dillerman, the goat professor.
Oh my! I was trying to figure out who this actor was the whole movie.
In his first scene, he's speaking, and I'm like, what English actor is that? I was like, who is this? Who is this? And I was racking my brain of all the English actors who could have been.
I've never pulled my phone out during a movie, but I was tempted to. I was like, should I turn my phone on right now?
I contemplated but luckily I figured it out by the end of the scene, and I'll tell you how. But I contemplated leaving to use the restroom, quotes, so I can fucking IMDb who the fucking actor was.
I just held it in. I watched the rest of the movie, but it was in the back of my head the whole time.
See, it would have driven me crazy. That's why I would have looked it up. But I figured it out. The way I figured it out was I was thinking about it the wrong way because I was trying to think of English actors. Mm-hmm. But instead, then my mind went to, what about movies and TV shows with English characters? And then I thought of Game of Thrones. I was like, maybe it's someone from Game of Thrones. And then it clicked that it was Tyrion Lannister. And then I was like, that's why I couldn't figure out which actor it was, because it's an American actor.
Peter Dinklage.
It was Dinklage.
Because I was thinking, I'm like, English actors, and I agree. If I was thinking about just everyone, maybe Dinklage would have clicked.
I gotta tell you, when it clicked in my head, the relief I felt sitting in that seat, I was just like, oh, I can enjoy the movie now.
I screamed Dinklage when I looked it up on my phone. I was like, Dinklage!
Oh,
not during
it was
the movie.
Great. It was
during
great.
the credits.
Then when I got it, I was like, oh, I'm loving this now. It's great. But it drove me nuts for a good 5 minutes. I could not fucking figure it out.
Drove me nuts as well.
Then Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morrible, who did a really good job singing live as well. It's tough to do that if that's not your specialty. Goldblum as Oz, I think, was perfect casting. It's great.
He's awesome.
Great person to play Oz.
He's always good.
Yeah, he's always great.
Always reliable. There's this crazy controversy that recently happened with Wicked. With
movie?
Their toys, which were made by Mattel, Barbie, and it involves an adult website. However, we'll talk about that after we get back from our intermission, okay?
What a tease.
What a tease. Now, before we get into our intermission, if you want to know the best way to support Raiders of the Lost Podcast, it would be becoming a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Why would you want to do this? Because it supports us financially, and you get awesome perks like weekly bonus episodes. We've done recent episodes like We Live in Time. We did one on Juror number 2 last week. Only patrons have access to that, plus the ad-free version of every single episode is only accessed by patrons. Plus, you get access to our Discord and all kinds of perks depending on what tier you're signing up for. For as little as $2 a month, you can be a member of Patreon, which when you get the whole annual purchase for a whole year, it only costs $10 with the discount they give you when you sign up for an entire year. Go to patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast to sign up today. Another great way to support the show. You know what I'm going to say. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts because it actually works. It helps us chart higher and higher on podcast platforms. It helps build reputability to the show for new listeners or viewers that see, oh, look at this show with these twins that talk about movies. Oh, they got 3,000 ratings. Maybe I'll give them a shot. Maybe people will give us a shot. Because
is that what our listeners sound like?
Potential listeners. Our regular listeners have really cool voices. They all do. Really like buttery, like, movie theater voice. All of our listeners sound like this right here.
They sound like the AMC guy?
Oh, yeah, the AMC. That guy's voice is crazy.
Is that the guy from Top Gun Maverick?
I don't know. The new guy's voice is insane. Anyways, those 5-star ratings and reviews are essential to our show's growth. Same thing with subscribing on YouTube. Also super important. We're almost at 50,000 subs on YouTube. That's huge, guys. Absolutely massive. And the final great way to support the show is just share us with your family and friends. Word of mouth is the best way for a podcast to grow organically, just like those 9 million tulips in this movie. Wicked. Brain fart in Wicked. Share us. Tell everyone you know about this awesome movie podcast.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our friends at movieposters.com, the #1 place to get your posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code right now, Raiders10, at movieposters.com. That'll get you 10% off your order right now. They have a huge selection of pretty much every movie and TV show imaginable in their poster library. If you love Wicked, you want to get yourself some Wicked posters, go there. Also, the holiday season is coming up. Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Get some presents for the movie lovers in your life. And if you're going to get them some stuff, go to movieposters.com. Get them a poster of their favorite movie or of their favorite TV series at movieposters.com. They have all sorts of sizes, framing, and even backlighting for your poster needs, as well as every film and TV show imaginable in their poster library. It is the one-stop shop for all of your poster needs. So go there, use our promo code right now, Raiders10, and that'll get you 10% off your order at movieposters.com.
Let's get into our intermission and begin with our first game, Framed.wtf, the website that gives you movie stills every single day from a film, and you have 6 guesses to figure out what movie it is. So let's pull up today's
We're at a liquor store.
Framed.
A liquor store, the clerk seems to be yelling or talking to someone at the door. He's got a jar of pickles on the table, on the counter. I don't know what this is. Skip. We have an overhead shot of 6 buildings.
Looks like a school or apartments.
I don't know either.
Skipping that. Then we have a shot of 2 guys at a door knocking
Looks
on
like
the
we're
door.
in L.A.?
Possibly.
Looks like an L.A. door.
That's not. Who's that?
Oh, is this a Spike Lee movie? I don't know. I don't know this.
Is that Jada Pinkett Smith in the next one?
No.
No, it's Jada.
Is it?
In it?
Maybe.
That looks
In
like
it?
Jada.
I gave up. I skipped it. Menace to Society.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen this in so long.
Menace
to
to
Society.
Yeah.
That is Jada. All right, moving on to the next game in our intermission, Anthony. You ready for the movie quote competition?
Ready.
Here we go. 2 characters. We have learnt more in the past year from genetics than a century of digging up bones. A whole new frontier has opened up. We have our first genetically modified hybrid.
That is Jurassic World.
That is because the next quote says, "You just went and made a new dinosaur? Probably not a good idea."
Here's my quote. I'm not a killer. I'm just someone who wanted to make things right. Can't I just let myself forget what you've told me? Can't I just let myself forget what you've made me do? You think I just want another puzzle to solve? Another John G to look for? You're John G, so you can be my John G. Will I lie to myself to be happy? In your case, Teddy, yes, I will.
Good quote. Good quote. Good movie.
Good picture. Good picture.
What's the other guy's name? Sammy. Well, it's Memento, obviously.
Well, thank you for answering the quiz.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving an answer. What's the other guy's name? Sammy? Who is this guy?
Sorry.
Anyways. Yeah, Sammy something.
I haven't seen that in a while.
Congratulations.
We should do an episode on it.
We should.
Yeah.
We should. Memento would be great. We can do movies from memory.
Movies from memory of Memento. That's
That
just
would be a mess.
that's too funny. That'd be really difficult. Guess the movie release year. I picked a movie that we've talked about in this episode with the year, so I'm gonna pick another one. If you want to go ahead and do yours first.
Memento.
Memento. Nolan's first feature would be
It's not his
2000
first feature.
No, I mean first studio feature.
It's
2000.
not a studio. It's independent. Theatrical release?
2002.
2000. I'm just saying, man. I'm just fact checking you, man. When you're wrong, you're wrong.
You know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean.
Oh my god, I'm gonna.
Independently made.
Was it 2000?
2000.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was 2002. I guess not.
No.
Because Insomnia was
Following was 1998.
Yeah, no, and then Insomnia was 2002, right?
Yeah.
Or
Then
2003.
Batman Begins was 2005.
Hmm.
Maybe Insomnia was 2004.
I guess. Anthony, what year did The Thin Red Line come out?
1998.
Bingo.
Bango. Bongo.
Insomnia was 2002.
It was 2002?
Yeah.
I wrote it down wrong. Oh, no, Insomnia.
Yeah.
Not Memento. So, the thing, do you know the story about Memento and its distribution problem?
I feel like you've told me this before.
So
I don't need to hear. I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna say it for our listeners, not for you.
It's a joke.
I don't give a. It was a rhetorical question. It was rhetorical.
You tell a lot of rhetorical questions.
Whatever, man. So after following, it played at Slam Dance, and he got investors to fund Memento for him. They made Memento. No studio wanted to pick it up for distribution because nobody understood it. And so it kind of fell off and didn't land distribution. And Steven Soderbergh was at a Hollywood party, and he went up to a bunch of studio execs and berated them because he had seen it. And he was like, I can't believe you guys fucking passed on Memento. You guys don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like, it's insane. And he just apparently, this is a story Jonathan Nolan told last year. And he went off on these studio execs at a party, and then one of them ended up picking Memento up for distribution at their studio.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
So Jonathan Nolan said that that Steven Soderbergh saved Memento and allowed it to get theatrically released.
And created Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
That's pretty crazy. So what studio was it? Let's see. Lionsgate, Canada. Distributed. Newmarket. Newmarket was the distribution company.
Yeah.
That is privately owned. Oh, they did The Passion of Christ, too. Donnie Darko. That's cool. That's a crazy story. That's like Kevin Smith with Good Will Hunting and how integral he was to that movie's success and the careers of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
Indeed.
Pretty cool.
Indeed.
I did not. That's an awesome anecdote. I'm glad it wasn't a rhetorical question.
You glad I said it?
Yeah. Have not heard that before. All right, Anthony. Movie pop quiz time. Who are the two leads of Grease?
John Travolta.
Yes.
And Olivia Newton-John.
Nice. Bingo, bingo, bingo.
Bingo, bongo, bango. Our mom loves Travolta and Olivia Newton-John.
I love Travolta, too.
Who directed Scarface, James?
It's easy peasy lemon squeezy, man. Olivia Newton-John.
What's his name? Sam? What's the
Sam,
other guy?
Sam.
What's the other one's name? Sam.
Sam something, right? Brian De Palma.
There we go. Nice. Good job. What's the other guy's What's the other guy's name? Doesn't answer it. Obviously, it's Memento.
I can't believe people passed on Memento. That's wild to me, man.
Yeah.
How do you watch that movie and think it's not brilliant? I don't get that.
Studios X in the 2000s, man.
They don't know. Well, I mean, not just the 2000s.
Ooh, let's get to some unsubscribes.
Yeah, who we got, Anthony? Let me see if we have any new 5-star written reviews on Apple Podcasts while you do that.
I hope there's a written review. It would make me really happy if there was a written review.
We'll see. We did just film yesterday, so we might not have any new ones.
All right, on our episode of Gladiator, Connor the Grumpus. This is our Gladiator episode from last week. Connor wrote, 3 hours, unsubscribed. I'll have to reschedule a time in the week to finish this. It's a long episode. Brady Evans on Movie News. Wow, on Letterboxd. Wow, no Josh Brolin. Brutal. When you said it during the Karate Kid, unsubscribed. Yeah, you get it. You set it up where you get to do it every time.
And
brutal. There we go. Thank you, pal. That's it for unsubscribes today.
I was watching a great clip of Brolin, who was just on Rogan's podcast, talking about Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men, if you want to hear a nice little anecdote.
I would love to.
So Rogan was asking him about Javier Bardem and what he's like, and he's like, Javier Bardem's the nicest guy in the world, one of my best friends ever. And he said that while they were making that movie, Brolin and Bardem, no one knew how special it would be or how great it was. Mm-hmm. And Javier himself, he had no idea, really, he had no confidence in the role, really, of being Anton Chigurh. He's like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't play these kinds of characters. I don't know why they hired me to do this. He felt out of place, he said, basically.
Wow.
And also, the haircut, he wouldn't leave his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he would refuse to leave the apartment. They kept trying to take him out for drinks and here and there, but he was embarrassed to leave the home.
Wow.
So he said he had, like, a pretty bad experience making the movie. Obviously, you're making a movie, very lucky, so. Yeah. But this is just being hyperbolic. But he said that he didn't understand really exactly why he was cast in that role as Anton Chigurh, and then he ends up winning an Oscar for it.
It's one of the best performances of the century.
It's so
That's
good.
a wild story. I remember seeing a Bardem interview where he said when he was thinking about the role, he was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm right for this, but I mean, I love the Coen brothers, so I'll say yes to it," because he was a fan of theirs.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
And Brolin's talking about how, the scene where with the coin toss with the guy at the gas station where he has that great moment where he says, call it. He said like the day before, him and Brolin kept asking Brolin, like, how do I say it? Call it? He's like, yeah, just say call it. He kept, because he's Spanish, he's from Spain, he's got a thick accent. He kept saying like, call it. So they spent like so much time just figuring out how to say call it.
That's amazing.
But it's a great interview, and it's a great podcast. But
would it be awesome to see them reunite in a film again?
It would be.
That would be so cool.
Because Brolin's just such a cool guy. But it was really interesting to hear about that from Bardem, who's such a great actor, to feel like, I don't know what I'm doing here in this movie role.
Yeah.
And then becoming one of the best villains ever in that performance.
Ever. It was a crazy couple of years of performances. You get that, and then you get the Joker right after it.
And Plainview with Daniel Day.
And Daniel Plainview in the
year.
same year. It's fucking insane.
Yeah, 2007, 2008. When was Black Swan? What year was that? 2010?
Black Swan was might have been 2010, might have been 2011, something like that.
So around that time.
Yeah. Around that time.
Goodness gracious. All right, Anthony, what is your streaming recommendation?
Speaking of Daniel Day, they just added Phantom Thread on Netflix, so you better fucking watch it.
What a great film. I'm going with Wonka on Max because it's a pretty good musical and the same production designer.
So you've done the same thing. When Wonka came out, you were just always like, there's chocolate, and there's chocolate. That's all you would sing. That's all you would sing.
Chocolate.
And you're doing the same thing with a popular song. You're saying one line over and over. You're not singing the song. You're singing the same one line.
Gonna be popular.
It's the exact same thing as Wonka.
Hey, man. It is what it is.
I gotta deal with it.
You're stuck with me as your
All right,
co-host.
tell us about this adult website controversy with Wicked.
All right, let's get back into Wicked. And so this just happened less than 2 weeks ago. So Mattel, they made all of the action figures and toys for Wicked with Universal. And a couple weeks ago, they went on shelves. They hit shelves, and companies will do this a few weeks before movie releases. It actually is a great way to get a glimpse of what characters will look like in the film for secret roles and stuff like that. So they dropped all the toys in stores a couple weeks ago. However, it was revealed in early November this month, 2024, that Mattel accidentally printed the URL to an adult film website on the back of the packaging for Glinda and Elphaba dolls. And so Mattel had to do an immediate recall, but many of them had already been sold and already hit eBay as collector items. So they took back as many as they could. However, there are still some out there with the adult website URL on the back of the boxes.
Are you going to tell us the URL?
It's just wicked.com.
Wicked.com.
So the movie website is wickedmovie.com, but they just did that for the URL. And
how does that happen?
I have no idea.
How many people approved the design of this packaging and said yes to that?
Well, to be fair, the back of the packaging has a ton of words on it, a bunch of things of where it was made.
There's
blah,
like,
blah, blah.
yeah, there's like 80 words on it.
No, but I mean, it's just, you miss it. It's like, oh, it's just wicked.com. That seems like the website to the Wicked movie.
That's the problem. Is they were like, it seems like the website. That sounds right.
But that's not my job. I'm trying to figure out why. See, this is like last episode for you.
What?
I'm trying to figure out why it happened.
Okay, you are. I know, yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, I'm just wondering, like, how many people said approved the design of that thing. They all said yes to that design. Like, it's not just one person. Like, a whole board of people said yes to that design.
Honestly, it's pretty funny.
No one checked.
But yeah, wickedmovie.com is the movie website.
Did you go on wicked.com?
I never heard of it.
Sure you haven't. Yeah, James, we know. Sure you haven't.
I never heard of it. Who would have thought that was an adult website? Wicked.
Sure. We believe you, man. we believe you, James. You had no idea what Wicked.com was. We believe you.
Yeah, when I was getting my Elphaba toy last week, I looked at the back, like, hey, that's the wrong website, guys. I'm the one that phoned it in.
You're like, I know this website.
I know, yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like, this is the wrong website, guys.
Oh my god. It's Elphaba, by the way, not Elphaba.
I said Elphaba.
Elphaba. All right. Back to the film. I gotta be a little critical of the movie. I enjoyed the film. It was really great. It had a lot of great highs. And I think the last 20 minutes was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. And the first act was a lot of fun. The final act was really great. It's very strong, very emotional, powerful ending, fantastic conclusion to the story, and an excellent way to transition as a cliffhanger into the next film. I love the ending. Like when Elphaba is on the she's flying and her robe is like is huge and she's like belting it out with the sun behind her. It's fucking sick.
Badass.
It was fucking awesome. There's so many highs to the film. But I will say there was a little bit that, took me out of the film. It could get a little campy here and there. It was a bit of a slow second act.
Yeah, the middle part, yeah.
Middle part, it moved along pretty slowly. Narratively, not much plot was happening.
And it's not that there were too many scenes. I think it's the scenes were going on way too long than they had to be.
Yeah, I feel like because this is a two-parter, if you compare it to something like Dune, you're looking at an 800-page book. There's a lot of stuff to fill even the first film. This movie felt a little stretched out a little too much, where we were losing narrative conflict.
Butter spread out over too much toast.
What's that from?
Oh, what?
We just watched it.
Gandalf. I'm feeling.
Okay,
I know.
Okay, got it.
I don't look it, but I feel old, like stretched
too
much butter over too much toast.
Thank you for that perfect rendition, word for word.
Thanks.
Of Bilbo's line,
Stuttering through it.
Sounds about right. It just felt like there was a point where it was like didn't feel like much was happening. But once it got going in the third act, it was great. But I will say that I had one big problem with this movie, and it really took me out of the movie. It was at the end of the second act, at the height of conflict's beginning, where a really cool scene happens where the wizard and Madame Morrible trick Elphaba into
reading from the book.
Reading from the book, and that incantation, Abba, Baba, Abba, 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 Abba,
Abba, Abba.
And it giving
like a minion. Sorry, it sounded like minions talking.
Speed it up at 1.5 speed. How dare you, James? But and then what happens is they discover that this spell gave all the monkeys wings, caused them a lot of pain. Elphaba is like, "Oh no, I didn't want to hurt them. They're in pain. How do we stop it?" And Madame Morrible is like, "Oh, there's no way to stop it. Anything that's been read from the incantations written in the book cannot be undone." And then they go out into the hall and see that it happened to every monkey. So now we have all the army of the flying monkeys. Great origin. I thought it was such a cool scene. Really shocking and also disturbing. It was great. But then Madame Morrible just shouts out, "They'll make great spies!" And then Elphaba's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And then the wizard's like, "Yeah, we'll be able to overthrow all the talking animals now." And I was like, "Oh, come on. You just spelled out your evil plan right after this to your character." I was like, the girls are right here.
She's just so excited, man. It just brought it out.
For me, as in terms of writing
I get it,
narrative,
it's too easy.
It's
too easy.
The characters didn't discover the twist. It was just blurted out by accident. That, for me, was otherwise, the movie was fantastic, but for me, that moment really was just that was a really cheap cop-out right there.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what the theater plays are like, if that's part of the script for...
Even if it is part of the play, I would say that's still a cop-out.
I don't know how they do it in the book, but yeah, I felt the same thing. I was like, it's a pretty easy way to give your audience the information or the
give
clue.
The characters the information,
versus discovering. It would have been, I think, would have been better if they discovered it themselves.
Same.
But maybe that's what it's like in the book and the script, and it was still, a really good third act after that. I think my favorite parts... When it comes to, if we're talking about musical dance numbers, my favorite dance routine was in the spinning, rotating library.
Yes,
I thought that was
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
It, harken back to great films like The Spinning Hallway and Inception, and I think it was very creative. The stunt work was awesome, and it looked pretty dangerous too at times. But it was really well choreographed.
That was pretty dicey.
It was really impressive.
He was Fior. I keep saying this guy's name wrong. Fiyero.
And you're giving me shit about Elphaba? The guy.
She's the
The
lead.
prince. Just say the prince.
He's not a prince.
Yeah, he is.
He's a prince?
He's a prince.
Oh yeah, he is a prince. Because not only were the bookshelves rotating, but there was that iron railing.
Each section was rotating in different ways, though.
And then he was playing around in that railing that was strapped to one of the bookshelves, and he was flipping on that, holding onto that, interacting with that. That was a dangerous dancing performance, but they pulled it off really well.
It was so cool. It was probably my favorite part of the movie. I also loved, I loved the bickering and banting. Elphaba, sorry, is bringing her with her father, her younger sister Nessa,
who hates her.
Yeah,
he fucking hates her.
Why are you talking? Loathe is an understatement. Loathe is an understatement of how Elphaba's father feels about her. Her sister Nessa has been accepted at Shiz University, so they're bringing her, and she ends up getting a spot there because she accidentally lets out some magic in front of Miss Morrible, who takes her on as a private pupil. And then we have the clashing of the relationships and personalities of Glinda and Elphaba, which was such a delight to watch because I think Glinda is so fun to watch. Ariana Grande was terrific. She's hysterical, so ignorant in funny ways, and you can tell she wants to be a sweet person, but she just doesn't know how to be to normal people. She's sort of like Regina George, except less mean in a lot of ways, although she does get kind of mean and rude when she's starting to sort of sabotage Elphaba, just like Elphaba's kind of trying to sabotage her in different ways, until they become friends. But I loved the musical number of them in their suite. It must have been their first night together.
What is this feeling?
Yeah, what is this feeling? Going back and forth. Dearest Momsy, Momsy, and Popsicle, whatever she says. And I love that scene, the back and forth between their personalities and their singing and dancing. But I also loved when they became friends. And it was very heartwarming, the time they spent together as best friends. And when Glinda is trying to make her look like a fool with the hat, her aunt's hat, and it's very mean what she's about to do. And she's going through with it and then realizing that, Elphaba's been dealing with being discriminated against her entire life.
But also, Elphaba did something really solid for her.
Yeah.
Getting her in with Madame Morrible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So before that, she's told that she's going to get tutoring from Miss Morrible too, because Glinda, out of being kind of a mean person, helps Nessa get a date to the dance, which leads to Elphaba asking Miss Morrible for a favor to tutor Glinda. And then the hat thing happens, and this all brings them together because probably for the first time in her entire life, Glinda realizes that she's not the only person in the room for once, and she's done something terrible to somebody to humiliate them, but through Elphaba's entire life, she's been dehumanized, and she's starting to accept herself for who she is throughout this dance number in front of everybody. It's so dramatic how the music stops and everyone's just like, oh, gosh, oh my God, she's wearing a hat.
It's musicals.
It's so over the top.
This is the most musical theater musical I've ever seen.
So over the top. Yeah. You could, like, a glass drops. It's so classic. And then she just is basically a middle finger to everybody, does her unique dance in front of everybody, and then Glinda joins her with the dance, making her cool and making her popular. You're gonna be popular. And then I loved that whole number of the popular song, of them being best friends, the funny sequences of her trying to put different glasses on Elphaba's face, different bows in her hair, just putting the flower in her hair, trying pink with green. And I thought it was very sweet and heartwarming, and it led to a great second and third act for me.
The mirror dance, I think, is one of the best parts of the film too, when Glinda mirrors Elphaba's unique dance, and that was them finally bonding, and I think that was a great part of the film. The movie, I was surprised by the resonant themes in the film, the quest for power, the use of propaganda. The use of propaganda is used extensively in the final moments of the film, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot of it in the second film, and how the wizard and Madame Morrible turn society against Elphaba, giving her the name the Wicked Witch of the West.
Like we get in the opening of the movie, yeah.
Exactly. And telling citizens she's dangerous, she's evil. Look at her green skin. It's a testament to her true nature. And turning her into a villain. So I think the use of propaganda at the film was fantastic. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of that in the second film. But it was really I found the Glinda character to be way more complex than I was expecting. And it really showcased her nature in the third act, where she is so desperate to achieve her desires, to have Fioro, to become a great sorceress, to be welcomed by Madame Morrible and the wizard, that she's willing to give up her morals to do it. And she does that in the third act, where she chooses them over Elphaba. And she chooses to go to them and to embrace them. And I'm sure, my guess is, Madame Morrible is going to train up Elphaba. I mean, she's going to train up Glinda with the intention of using her as like the best defense against the Wicked Witch of the West. That's I'm sure it seems to be obvious that's what it's being set up for.
Yeah.
So like Glinda will be the savior of Oz against the Wicked Witch of the West. And so even though she is a decent, she proves herself to be decent and a morally good person, there is a gray area to Glinda's personality where she chose what she wants over what was right.
Versus Elphaba, who, with her wish for the wizard, chooses to help the animals very selflessly. Hey, twist the bottom of your microphone. Your logo sideways. We got.
Oh no!
Yeah, the other way. The other way.
Yeah, I
see. Yeah. There we go. That's perfect. Now you can see Raiders of the Lost podcast really well on your microphone. And there are so many other great themes in this movie. Obviously, bigotry and discrimination. The allegory of racism and prejudice in this film is apparent is throughout the entire course of the story. You know, the skin color, the green skin, leads to dehumanizing behavior and language against Elphaba her entire life. Her father treats her like a different class of human being compared to his biological daughter. Nessa, that classic line of "I don't see color" is obviously a reference to the ignorance of, people who use it to defend racism. Elphaba gaining self-confidence in herself and her green skin throughout the course of the film. The friendship between these two women, I think, is really special, and they help heal and grow together throughout the course of the film until that finale, like where you're talking about, where Glinda gets morals, but then she's sacrificing them for the enticements of power, glory, living in the Emerald City, living with the wizard, having magic, being a sorceress, easily corruptible person, because of her inclination to get things that she wants, because that's what she's gotten her entire life. In that great funny moment,
I didn't get what I wanted.
I didn't get what I want. I need to lay down. Very funny.
Bowen Yang was hilarious.
Yeah,
he was great.
Disability representation, very powerful in this film. Marissa Bode is Elphaba's sister, Nessa Rose, and then that same kind of moment, or that same sort of line, "tragically beautiful," is said multiple times to show people's pity for Nessa, which she doesn't want. She doesn't need help. She doesn't want help. And then we're talking about privilege with Glinda. Comes from immense wealth and privilege. She ignores real issues and chooses to be ignorant of social issues, whether or not it's because she's the way she's grown up. But eventually, Elphaba helps open her eyes, holding people accountable for their actions, holding the wizard accountable for his actions, which Elphaba essentially does at the end of the film. And the animal rights, standing up for people who don't have any defenders. I think that's a great moment, because we get bits of lore of Oz and how animals used to coexist with humans. The Shiz University used to have tons of animal professors, whether it was a jaguar or was it like a beaver. All kinds of animals were teaching and speaking, intellectuals. However, the goat professor, he's the last one there. He's the last one at the school. And there's even that terrible thing where he flips the chalkboard and someone wrote something very offensive about animals on the chalkboard, and animals are losing their ability to speak. And the use of a cage is soon going to be implemented in Oz, which is terrible, and it's causing them to lose their voice. This is all an allegory for people who don't have defenders, people in lower social classes who don't have anyone to stand up for them and who get put in cages, essentially metaphorically, through economic reasons or political reasons. Those animals represent human beings. That's who they're talking about with those characters in that whole plot point.
Also, when Elphaba accidentally uses magic in front of everyone outside of Shiz University, the emblem of the school cracks open and falls down, and underneath it was a painting of animals who seem to be the old essential founders of the school. Is what my guess was.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah. I wish they had talked about that in the film.
I bet they'll go more into it.
Because I thought that was
with the second
interesting.
film.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Because the opening of the first film is obviously probably the ending of the second film.
With the Melted Wizard? I mean, Melted Witch?
Yeah, the witch.
Well, yeah, it's the end of the Wizard of Oz movie.
So we're gonna have to get, I guess,
We're gonna
a lot more.
We're
lore.
essentially gonna get the Wizard of Oz.
And they filmed both these movies back to back, right?
They filmed it all as one movie, not even back to back, but like they used they're just treating the whole they filmed all the shit stuff at one, for both films at that location at once. So they built everything they treated it as one movie. $350 million production budget.
Whoa.
But they're gonna make a ton.
Whoa.
They're gonna make a shit ton.
Do you know what the origin of Elphaba's name is?
How about you tell me?
So, the name of the Wicked Witch, Elphaba, was created by taking a phonetic pronunciation of the original Wizard of Oz author L. Frank Baum's initials, which are LFB, which became Elphaba. Elphaba.
Very cute.
Cool, right?
I love that.
Yeah, I liked it too.
Do you have any more fun facts?
Not really, I guess. I mean, I think that this movie was just a lot of fun, and like I said, the production elements were my favorite part, with the sets in particular. You know, John Chu cited Steven Spielberg's Hook as a source of inspiration for the large-scale sets and practical effects to bring many of the elements of the Land of Oz to life, including, like you said, those 9 million tulips planted on location which surround the Munchkin Land set from the opening of the film. Obviously getting also influence from movies like Pleasantville and The Truman Show on thematic portrayal of the Land of Oz, which I think are obviously apparent. You know, treating your whole world like a theatrical set, I thought was really fascinating. It seems like they just took that style and ran with it.
At the end of the day, this film seemed like a perfect adaptation for fans, which is really all you want, all you can ask for something like this. It seemed like the super fans were in my theater, and they stood up and were clapping, standing ovation
At the end?
Yeah, they were going nuts. So they were extremely satisfied, so happy with the adaptation. People I've spoken to are over the moon with this film. So it seems like they did right by the source material, which is what you want studios to do when they option a huge IP.
Yeah, again, I think for me, I have the same other con where it just felt stretched.
Yeah.
It felt a little too long. You know, sort of a Hobbit sort of situation where does it really fully work with two movies? I think it does, but stretching so many moments in part one, for me, it slowed it down quite a bit because it had a lot of great scenes and a lot of great moments, and the lead performances were just so great, and the singing was spectacular. It really was, and I really enjoyed the movie. I had a good time.
It's going to get a lot of awards recognition.
If it doesn't win Best Original Song, I'd be shocked. Absolutely shocked. It has to.
It's got to.
Probably won a Grammy, too.
Oh, by the way, Ariana Grande produced all the music.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, she was a producer on every song, not just a singer.
Well, good for her.
Heavily involved in it.
That is very, very cool. All right. You got anything else on Wicked?
That's it, man.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning into our episode on the new musical. We appreciate you all tuning in so much. Be sure to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of Lost Podcast. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. Subscribe on YouTube, and take care, everybody.
See you next time.